Yes.
Uh-huh. Got it. Great.
Okay.
Okay. Have you gotten any nominees yet? Just out of curiosity.
Yes, I have.
Fantastic.
I have 3. So yes,
Yes, we're doing it.
I just have to look up what school they're from because I don't know if they're
Yeah.
from the same unit or what. So.
Oh, for the secretary or for the?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no.
I'm sorry. No, not for secretary. I'm
Okay.
just talking for the
For the,
for
okay.
the
Well, we'll get
special.
that to that. Do we have any nominations for secretary?
No.
No. Okay. I may have a plan to deal with that if by the end of this special election, and I don't want to keep just redoing special elections if no one's interested. So one of the things that I propose to do if we get no nominees is I've been thinking about this a lot. I can resign from VP and then nominate myself for secretary, since we had several other people, very quality people, that I sort of feel bad for taking this position away from in the race for VP. So in that case, I'm happy to, we will do it all through elections, just, as it's supposed to be. But I think that might be a solution to make sure all 3 seats are filled. If we don't get any nominations, then I'm fine with that. But hopefully this call for nominations is open till Friday. So cross your fingers, encourage anybody that you can encourage, and hopefully we'll get some nominations by Friday. Go ahead, Yuting.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for this creative idea. In the meanwhile, let us give benefit of doubt. Hopefully, we will have faculty members who will step up before you make this decision, because at this point, we really want a faculty member to help us. It's a matter of time.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time. So we'll see how that goes. And then we have a second special election, which you should, depending on which college you're in, that you should have received information for to fill those vacant seats that we have for the Senate, which sounds like we have some nominees. So that is fantastic. Keep encouraging if you're in one of the colleges that has the open call, just try to keep encouraging people to be a part of this body, because it's actually, I think, a really educational and fun body to be in. And I think people I think we're all at this level of apathy, but if we can get past that, then I think we can get people. That will close on Monday. So we will have elections for that, or excuse me, voting for that will be electronically. And then of course, if we get any nominations for secretary, then that will go through voting as well. And if not, then we'll come back to the table and address my creative solution. All right, Joe.
I have a doomsday question for you. Sorry for being pessimistic.
It's fine.
Faculty could generally go off contract on the 15th of May.
Yes.
That's true. What is our backup plan in case you still don't get any takers for the elections?
Yeah,
because faculty won't generally be back into August 15th and are also not required to answer your email or anybody's email.
Yep. So if we don't fill those open Senate seats by next week, then we will remain a Senate of 31 until the fall, and we'll do a special election again. So there's nothing in the operating paper that states that we can't have less than 36. It is an unfortunate event, and hopefully that we will not be less than 36, but there's nothing preventing that from occurring. So any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Bethany. Now we have undergraduate education policy committee. I know Walter, I sent him the agenda. I'm not sure whether he could be here, and Denise Joy is here.
Right, so thank you, Yuting and everyone. We have I decided, Amy Groh and I, the previous co-chair from last year's Senate, we decided with consultation with President Lee, not to have any further RMEs come forward this year, given that given that the semester has ended last week. We're in final exam week this week. Many faculty are under the impression that their annual leave starts the weekends of commencement, when technically it doesn't start to a couple days later. And that out of due concern for faculty participation in these decisions about programs, that it would be best to just wait until the early fall to handle what was in the pipeline remaining. There was about two additional programs that the associate provost for academic programs wanted to have us discuss, and we just didn't. Technically, it would fall on before May 15th because the faculty senate next week is, I think, on the 10th. But from a functional point of view, it didn't make sense from a point of view of allowing faculty to have their full say. So we just said, no, we're not. So that's really all I have to report. I will be transitioning off the executive board mid-year, just to let everybody know. I take a sabbatical starting in spring of 2023. So Walter has got some really creative ideas about education, and I look forward in the fall to mentoring him to help him probably be the solo chair of the spring, which, unless we can get another volunteer. There'll be a lot of RMEs he'll have to write. But that's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, any question for Joel? Okay, thank you. We have a budget committee co-chair, both Mike and Fan are new. So any update or any report or any plan?
I think Scott may have a question. He's got his hand raised. Or maybe not.
I'm sorry.
Oh, Scott, you have a
actually,
question?
no, that was my mouse doing something weird. I'm sorry. It was showing up as a hand on his square, like it was a hand raise. Sorry about that. I haven't talked to Farhan yet. I don't have anything except to mention that we received your memo regarding the school directors and deans 12-month salary. That's something we'll certainly bring up during the next year. And I haven't checked with the previous chairs to see if there was business that carried over that we need to address early on, but I'll certainly send an email out, or one of us will, and just make sure there's nothing that we need to carry over between the years.
Thank you.
To kind of help you with that, Jennifer Brobst was last year's primary chair, especially after mid-year when Marcus Odom resigned from the Senate. And she was reporting to us as a committee, as an executive committee, the problems she was having getting information about budgeting. So it's been something we've been worried about about the degree in which there is shared governance with your committee's jurisdiction. So just a heads up.
So Farhan mentioned that he's going to be gone for part of the year too. So I'm going to serve on the university's budget committee. And I know when I've served on it in the past, the way the budget committee worked was they handed you a budget and said, this is what we're doing. So I don't know if that's changed or not. My guess it hasn't, but I'll certainly, I'll do my best to allow us to get a little more input in that decision-making process.
Yeah, 2 years ago, Jacob Halbenreich was the co-chair, and he managed to do a budget equity scorecard. So there are some creative ways you can get the faculty voice heard, I think, on this campus on that. But Senator Brobst Jenny was having problems last year.
My experience with the budget committee, that's really dependent on who the chancellor is and who the chief fiscal officer is at the time. And they're the ones that kind of decide how willing they are to receive input from the faculty or not receive input. So.
Okay, I know last year, again, I just raised hands of myself as a member, and we didn't, I do not know why we only had one meeting. And Jenny went there, I could not be there. So it was scheduled almost late March or early May. And the new vice chancellor of finance and administration was just hired. So maybe the model, the process would be different, just FYI. So you guys, you too, that means both Mike and Farhan need to work with the new vice chancellor. Okay, Farhan first, and then
thank you. So I've been serving the budget committee for the last 2 years. So I was fortunate to serve on the very first time we kind of created the budget equity report card, so to speak. That would set a baseline for future analysis. So I don't know if it is too early this year to carry out that exercise again, but I would thank Chancellor Lane at that point because he was very open in sharing the data. I hope to receive the same kind of cooperation this time around if we decide to do that exercise again. But we'll see the budget committee how it goes. And in the fall, I'll be on sabbatical, but I'll be in touch with Mike. In the spring, I'll be returning. So hopefully we can do some serious damage. All right. Thank you.
Sure, very good. Thank you, Dr. Markson.
Yeah, from what I'm hearing actually now is that we have all those committees and, budget and governance and all these things. But it seems like we're just sitting there and listening to what people they want to do, and there is no input from faculty. So I'm asking myself, what's the role of the faculty senate in this case? What's the role of the faculty?
Excellent question, Dr. Maxon. I think we need to be more proactive rather than a token, and that's why at least, we need to advocate for faculty's interest, faculty support, highs. I know you know that in the past few years, we lost almost 420 faculty members. And again, College of Liberal Arts, College of Science. I mean, now there's no more College of Science, I feel sorry to say. And we do not know how many faculty members were lost in those areas. Obviously, that's the issue we need to, you guys, budget committee to examine, to work on. And the year before last, I was on the faculty senate budget committee at that time. Jacob, what's his last name?
Halbenreich.
Yeah, Halbenreich. Now he's at Johns Hopkins University. It's good for him. And he did an excellent job in terms of the numbers, budget, and the data were very helpful. So I think that's something we would like the budget committee to continue to advocate more transparencies for university budget and also more support for the faculty. Absolutely important, Dr. Maxon. Thank you. Any other comments, question for budget committee? Well, if not, we're going to the committee on committee, and I know that both Ine and Sung-Hee were extremely busy in the past few days, so now it's all floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. So as Dr. Lee mentioned in his report, co-chairs had been elected for each of our five subcommittees. And so I'm not going to go and review the information once again, but I want to thank all of the members on committees for their quick turnaround. I mean, basically, just for everyone's, we have new people on board with us now, but a lot of times these decisions are brought to us or thrown to us maybe on a Wednesday or a Thursday. We have to basically rally our votes by the weekend, Monday at the latest, so that they can get presented on executive committee on Tuesday. So I want to thank people for being helpful in that regard. The only other thing that I have to report on is that Sung-Hee and I started talking about the university-wide committees, and generally those notices go out shortly, like over the summer months, so that we get nominations back before the fall semester begins, and then we can start to look at working with people who are volunteering and assign them to university-wide slots. So that's something that Sung-Hee and I are going to start to work with Josh on, to take a look at what vacancies will be present and get our notices out to all the faculty and NTT members who will be potential volunteers for this from the faculty as a whole. So thank you.
Thank you. Anything to add, Sung-Hee?
Yes. We need to get approval from the faculty and executive committee for the co-chair of each the standing committee. So we are the move to request Faculty Senate Executive Committee to approve those co-chairs. So, any second?
Before motion and second, I would like to add a footnote because UEPC will have a lot of IME and Joe is going to take a sabbatical in the spring. In other words, we're still looking for another co-chair in spring, so that Joe can help us to mentor those new chairs in the fall.
I think Walter will be absolutely exceptional in the position. I've served on writing, writing groups with Walter over the years. I know him very well. He's got some very creative ideas about curriculum, which will be helpful. I think what I'm concerned most about, and the reason that I'm willing to serve an extra semester after being also, for 2 years already, is we have a new APAP coming in July, and APAP's not going to know how to run their side of IDHE reporting and whatnot necessarily at first, as smoothly as I think we've all come to expect with Lizette. That Chevalier has been a model in terms of making sure paperwork gets filed and making sure things actually happen, but also listening to the faculty voice. I think, Bethany, you were my co-chair. There was never a moment in the 2 years that I've been co-chair where if I said the faculty won't buy this is not going to happen, then she tried to go over my head and say, ram something through. She did listen to the faculty voice. So it's important, I think, in this transitionary moment that we have strong independent voices in the Faculty Senate who can help keep that equilibrium, that idea that faculty control curriculum, and that we are the prevailing voice in those discussions. And while everything in Faculty Senate technically does is advisory, you really ought to not go against the faculty voice on things like this. And I would encourage my other co-chairs to approach it similarly. We are technically advisory, but you really ought not to ram anything through against our strong wishes, because we are the university after all. It's not the administration that's the university, the faculty are. So.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. So now we had a motion and also one of you second. Yeah. So we need to, if there is no objection or comment, no more discussion. Yeah.
Who moved it?
Sung-hee,
Sung-hee moved it. Okay, sorry.
and I
Thank
second it.
So let's to voice a vote to verify or certify those chairs and co-chairs as part of the process.
Yes, same process. This is for the vote to approve the chairs and co-chairs of the standing committees.
Yes.
Yu-Ting Lee.
Yeah, yes.
Myself, yay. Joe Shremick,
Yay.
Michael Eichholz,
Yay.
Farhan Chaudhry,
Yay.
Elaine Jakowski,
Yay.
Sung-hee Lee,
Yay.
Jennifer Sherry,
Yay.
Scott Gilbert,
Yay.
and Khalid Meksim.
Yay.
And that is everybody unanimously passes.
Thank you. Okay, the next one is the Faculty Status and Welfare Committee. Maybe Jennifer, and I know Scott is new. Jennifer, you may give some update about the proving or the process of the open paper final certification from the chancellor.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm looking forward to working with Scott. This will be another Scott, so that's good. I actually, we had received email notification after Dr. Lee had reached out again to the chancellor about the process of changing the operating paper on the membership question that was voted on. And he alluded that he was going to sign that. So we should be getting some finality with that finally. Another thing is that was kind of a loose end that we need to follow up on is I know that there was a rally last week for the Faculty Association for Dr. Ming. And so I didn't know if there was any updates, Dr. Lee, on what was happening as far as the administration supporting this effort.
Okay. Yes, okay. In fact, it was organized by Faculty Association, and I keep at least keep Bethany informed that I was there. At least, okay, I do not represent anybody, just be a faculty member. So, and there was, I think, the newspaper, the Southern Illinois newspaper there. I'm not sure whether Daily Egyptian was there. And the trial for Dr. Min was actually scheduled last week and still going on this week. We do not know the final decision until this Thursday. And so that's what I know. And hopefully this case will be acquitted, we hope, but who knows what will be the final conclusion from the judge or jury.
For that update, I appreciate that, because I just wanted to make sure that that was moving forward as far as getting something back from administration to acknowledge that we had sent all of the information to them.
Thank you. Thank you very much for you and Scott, at least the previous Scott, and also thank you, Scott Gibbard, for helping us as well in terms of faculty status and welfare. And also, you know, the COVID-19 situation, as I said in my report, obviously that's part of your interest too. Okay. Governance Committee, any question for Jennifer and Scott before we move to the next committee?
I'm not sure whether this is a joint matter between your committee and governance, but it's mostly governance matter, but I'm starting to see it affect faculty status. So I mention it here in this context. We've had an extremely tardy, prolonged operating papers in the schools.
Yes, I think
it's been something that, you know, is beginning to be unacceptable. Because we're stuck in governance limbo. And again, it's mostly governance matter, but as I said, I think it now bridges into our status as faculty. So I kind of want to encourage all you to make that argument, if you will, because you know, we all are affected by those things, and you know, the reduction of faculty lines, the treatment of our, you know, and some of it's contractual, obviously, a lot of it is faculty association bailiwick, and it's perhaps not the faculty senate's job to, in all cases, but you know, I just raise it.
Actually, Joe, very good observation, and I would like to ask Dr. Maxson to give update, because yesterday I wrote an email to Associate Provost Mark Morris and Chancellor Nan with regard to opening paper. Faculty Senate was totally skipped, was not involved. And there were some complaints from some faculty members which brought some faculty member talked to me about this. So, and I would like Dr. Maxson to give update. Maybe you and Patrick will pick up and
yes.
By the way, Patrick couldn't be here. He emailed me and Dr. Maxson, so he had other commitment, conflict of schedule. This only for today. I think give exam, something like that. You know, exam week. Yeah. Go ahead, Dr. Maxson.
Yes, well, I'm actually aware of some of the delay that did happen in our College of Ag and Life Sciences and Physical Sciences. And some of the concerns actually that lots of faculty, they were actually reporting is why the directors of the schools are being involved in this operating paper, where actually there is a committee that should normally be involved, and it should be, you know, making the vote and approving those papers before handing it to the administration. And I serve as a chair of the committee of our own operating paper, you know, But when it comes to the vote, I don't see the votes. So it's actually the school director who's actually have to rely on for reporting to me what votes were voted on and, you know, percentages and all these things. And to me, it's awkward because here you have a committee, and then that committee normally is supposed to be finishing everything. And I did work very hard on those operating papers. I actually consulted with the faculty association. I consulted also with Delilah when he was in office, you know, to try to see, you know, the different sides before coming up with something. And there was a real delay actually when we shared the first, you know, draft to get the input with the faculty. Was back in September of 2021. And we are in May, and we are now voting on those operating papers. And the more this is delayed, so what's going to happen is actually our deans, they will have no other choice but to actually extend that interim director to stay in that position. And by extending that, you mean that you're losing another year, you know, where you could be operating under your own operating paper. So OPs are very important. I think that the first thing that has to be done probably is a census of, you know, who are the operating paper committees in every, I would say, school or college, and then get in touch with those people and make them aware of that the delay is not in favor of the faculty and that they should be working so hard on this, and then help them with providing some guidance of what needs to be happening. And I think in this screen, probably we have representatives of every college, and maybe every one of us can get in touch, you know, with his college and see, you know, where things stand, and then get the name of those faculty, and then we can start being in touch with them to try to move things forward.
Thank you. I think make sure you guys bring this question to Chancellor Nang, who will be here in 15 minutes. Thank you. And Joe, next one.
Yeah, could I suggest if we have some a good amount of time in July, our July meeting, I imagine we will, because it's the middle of the summer. Could we invite President Fletcher to come talk to us and be part of our meeting that day about the Faculty Association's role of these, and in sort of have a conversation between Faculty Senate and Faculty Association about, and what I'm envisioning here as a possible solution, Khalid, would be perhaps we would run joint workshops, perhaps next year, where we could have the various involved people, maybe college specific or whatever programs, invite programs to come meet with you and Patrick, and then also with whoever the Faculty Association wants to help you. Because I think it's there's some bargaining parts of it. That's the Faculty Association perspective, is, are we following the union contracts? There's bargaining to it, but there's also, we have a shared interest as faculty in making sure this university is governed well. And right now, because of reorg, it's not really being governed well. And that's an unintended consequence of reorg, because I think everybody assumed that operating papers, including Chancellor Montemagno, when we originally proposed reorganization, that we would just have operating papers by now in schools. But they haven't happened, right? They've happened in 2 cases, I think, across the entire university. And so I know last year's co-chair of governance asked this question, started asking the chancellor and provost roughly every month on the Florida Faculty Senate, where are we with operating papers? Where are we with operating papers? And I get the sense that maybe more might be needed to get us to that safer place on the other side, where our rights as faculty in our units are observed and protected, and yeah. So that's my friendly suggestion, is perhaps if we have time in the summer or early fall to have have a conversation with Ian Fletcher and others from the Faculty Association about that.
Good suggestion, Joe. Thank you. I will reach out to Professor Ann Fletcher and see how she will react, whether she will be here or not. But I will do so. Thank you, Scott. Next one.
Yes, I was just going to quickly share, hailing here from the College of Business and Analytics, and I think I'm now maybe our one remaining representative on the Senate from the college. I failed so far to roust some other willing volunteers, so I guess we'll see. Anyway, I'm also at the moment the kind of heading our committee in one of our schools to get that operating paper done. And it is slow, and I think part of it is different. We hail originally from the College of Liberal Arts, not to go on to sailing over to Business College, School of Business, and it's a little mixed culture. It's been a little difficult, but I did have a question for Dr. Mexham, which is we have our interim director coming up for the regular director position. We're interviewing like tomorrow. So that looks like that slot's getting filled, but I thought it would be a good time to ask, do you think it might be, though, the case that really you shouldn't have that director slot filled until there's properly the completed and finalized operating paper?
Actually, yes. When you fill that position now, you're filling it under your old operating paper, from the college. So you're not filling it with the new operating paper. So you are lucky when you approve your operating paper for your school, then whoever the school director is, they will have to follow the operating paper of your school. But you have that position now under the college rules, actually.
Yes, and I just maybe I'll reach out to see whether that's actually a trip up, though, because I know we've hashed over this operating paper and we're getting close. But I was just curious whether there was actually then a problem or an issue that I might need to raise or express a concern about the timing. But thank you.
Yeah, Anthony just put in the chat, and the same thing goes for my school. We've had a permanent director when we created the school last year. We voted to have a permanent director. Sounds like School of Biological Sciences, you just put a permanent director in. But I know of a lot of other schools that don't want to do that until there's an operating paper.
Yeah, yes.
So I know Dr. Maxine wanted to say something. I just want to respond to Scott's comments. See, this is kind of a tricky issue. I know from some schools, they just appoint permanent director without opening paper. Let's think about psychology. And we still have a discussion on the opening paper, but they appointed the permanent one, give a 3 years contract. This is true maybe for many other schools, which is, I think, against the process. It should be interim rather than permanent. That's something we definitely need to raise to Johnson and Ann.
Yes, I need to add one thing here. So those are 3 years contracts, and then your operating paper, and I should say one thing very important, actually. The faculty need to take the blame for some of the stuff that did happen with the operating paper. It's not all, administration's mistakes. I can tell you, I had, 6 members with me in the committee, and then 2 of them, they never show up. And every time, everything was delayed. And then at the end, I had to work with 3 faculty that were actually there every time. And they were, pushing everything with me. So really, when picking your committees, you need to make sure that those guys, they will really be engaged with that. And for some reasons, we didn't get, to pick the committee. It's like, hey, those are the people, that you have to work with. And some of the people, I'm like, why they even put them there? Those people, they had no motivation. They had no interest in serving in these OPs. So that's one thing. The other thing is the second delay was actually with the faculty association, although I'm a member of the faculty association. So, but that, I think the reason why, we had a quick turnover with the administration. Actually, Delilah did send me back everything within almost a week and a half, and then it did stay longer with the faculty association. Well, here I will take, my take on it is probably, faculty association, it's voluntary, they are not paid to do that, so that's why it's taking too long, and they have to deal with different issues. And that's why the earliest you can get them involved in the process, so the fastest you can have that feedback. And there was a lot of misinterpretation of Article 9 of this versus that, what power should the school have versus what the college should have. And we were lucky, actually. I had access to our former college, paperwork, and our departments, within the different, units of the college. And we had to work with those different papers. And that's actually something that needs to be communicated, is the approach, because, you have to establish something new, but how are you going to do that? And sometimes, it's very hard to come up with a document that has 20 pages just from scratch. So maybe a kind of workshop explaining to people, hey, this is the way to go, and this will take you faster there, take from here, take from there, and try to do this, and this is how you can move it. So that would probably help everybody to move faster, because I'm sure that some people, they think, oh my God, I have to do everything now, and they will go and then be lost on the internet, about different schools and their OPs and everything. Whether maybe the best OPs you can come up with is making, what you had before, what would you like to see in the future, and merging them together, and then having, faculty input will help a lot early in the process.
Very good suggestion, Dr. Maxson. And almost now 1:52, we still have a few things on our agenda before 2 o'clock. I know we had a long discussion on this issue. Make sure we ask Chancellor Nan once he's here. So the next one is Idaho committee, maybe Dr. George Remick. Could you give just brief update?
On what committee? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. You were going out. I couldn't hear you.
I'm saying that could you give us some brief update about the Idaho Committee on Institutional?
Oh, Ad hoc Committee on Institutional Ranking. Yes. So we had our final meeting last Thursday, of which Yuting was also in attendance as a member of the committee. We were talking about how we were going to move to the remaining aspects of the ranking system. U.S. News and Report uses several metrics to come up with an overall score. We spent the majority of the spring looking at student retention and student recruitment and retention data, because that makes up 35%, which is the largest single percentage in the overall score. We decided also at that meeting to write a preliminary report, which will be delivered to the Faculty Senate at its July meeting. It won't be the final summary of the findings and research that we are doing, because that will be later this fall, I believe. But at least we'll give the Senate a sense of what we've been up to since the spring. We resolved also in the fall, when we come back on contract, to turn our attention to faculty resources, faculty research productivity, and other metrics that go into U.S. News and Report score. So to be continued on this committee, I suppose. And we have both the co-chairs are now senators, and I'm happy to say so. Michael Hyland was recently elected a senator.
Good. Thank you. Any question for Joe before we move to the old business? Okay, if not, old business, possibly Zoom meeting in July. Obviously, many of us will not be on contract. And also possibly in September meeting could be a hybrid. Again, we just talked about the July's meeting. Is it okay with you guys if we have a Zoom meeting in July, then we talk about the fall in our July's meeting? Would that be okay, Bethany?
Yeah, I'm in favor of an online meeting for July, just because I'm planning on going to a couple conferences in July, and will most likely not be in town, but I will be able to participate online.
Good, thank you. Joe?
I echo Bethany's remark. I have a conference indeed that very week in July that I'm going to. My point is a little bit broader than that, though, which is what have you been learning from public safety in terms of the committee that you serve on relating to COVID-19 preparations on this campus? There is, as we all know, a new Omicron surge going on around the country right now. It seems to be not causing as much hospitalizations as the one in the winter was causing. But what is your sense on two things? I think I want to ask you: sense of what they're telling you about our readiness for the fall, where we are in that terms of that. So that's question one. And the second question is, should we go to an in-person meeting at some point next academic year?
Well,
We would need to have a room large enough, I think, for those colleagues of ours who still, because of their own health issues or just wanting to be socially distant still, because I doubt the pandemic will be fully over. So we would need to have a room that would be large enough for that if we were to go to in person. I think the reason we've done Zoom these last 2.5 years is just because the practical logistics of that are a little bit hard to figure out.
thank you, Joe. I think we talked primarily the summer because the faculty member are not here in the summer. And for the fall, we have two plans, Plan A and Plan B. Plan A, that means, okay, everything will be resumed to normal situation. And Plan B, if the situation gets worse, and we have to think about maybe it depends on CDC's data as well as the situation. And I'm optimistic, hopefully it will be back to normal. If we plan to have a meeting in person, obviously Medical School of Medicine in Springfield, the faculty member have to connect with us by Zoom. So we still have kind of one small portion hybrid. So at this point, maybe we just think about meeting in July by Zoom. Then in July, we talk about more fourth plan. That's my humble suggestion. Would that makes sense to you?
Does, and then Bethany just wrote in the chat that she could spend time researching
Okay.
whether we have a room, because I think a small room, because I proxied for years before I was actually elected Senate, and they used to meet in that conference room in the First Florida Student Center, and I don't think that room is large enough for
No.
the Senate and for people's sense of well-being and safety, and I think we have to take those really seriously when we go back to. Because there will be some people on campus. I know there's people on campus now that still wear masks everywhere. So I think we have to be fair about that.
Yeah. Mike?
I just want to add, I think it's important we go ahead and try to find and secure a room this summer. So if we can't go back in person next fall, we're sure to have something large enough.
Good. I agree too. Dr. Maxson, Khalid?
I was just going to suggest, the auditorium, probably, the library. It's big enough to have enough space and hold everyone.
Okay. So, Josh, maybe.
So it's underused, so probably it will make a good use of it now.
We're going to look at that. Yeah, good. Thank you. And we're going to now, we need to approve the meeting schedule in academic year, actually in the year of 2022, 2023, for faculty senator. You have a list of the schedule. Do you have any observation, correction, or any suggestion before we have a motion? So we have two sets. One is the faculty EC, another is the general faculty meeting. So I need a motion to approve it.
Motion to approve.
Oh, okay. Who is first?
Mike can be first, I'll second.
Okay, Jennifer first, Mike second. Okay. So
Just a clarification, is this for both the SEC and the EC together?
yes,
Or the FS together? Okay, great.
yes,
Thank
two
you.
sets together, one package.
Are you on the call?
One vote.
Okay, yes.
That is me. I am driving, so I'm going to go on mute.
All right. We have a motion and it has been seconded, so we will call to vote. We'll do a voice again, and this is a vote to approve the schedule for the FSEC and the general FS meetings for next year. So starting with Yuting Lee.
Okay, yes.
Myself is yes. Joe Shremick,
Yes.
Michael Eichholz,
One sec.
Hey,
Farhan Chowdhury,
Yay.
Elaine Drakowski,
Yay.
Seung-Hee Lee,
Yay.
Jennifer Sherry,
Yay.
Scott Gilbert,
Yay.
and Khalid Mexon.
Yay.
All right, it is unanimous and our schedules pass.
Okay, good. So Chancellor Nam might be a few minutes behind, so just take a few minutes. Oh, are
I'm
you
here.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
okay.
Yeah, I just can't be on video. I'm en route, but I am
Okay.
here. How's everybody doing today? I'm here.
Okay, so we just on time, and in fact, 2 minutes behind. My apologies. So otherwise, we could have taken 2 or 3 minutes break, and then you can wrap up. So Chancellor Nam, whenever you're ready, and we have a few questions for you. And the first question about the open paper, I think this we discussed. We had a discussion. This is maybe, and also yesterday I sent the email to Associate
All of Illinois,
Mhm.
300-mile radius. And I'll get that list to you.
You're still there? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. I signed something today. I think it's in the works to all be signed and move forward.
Okay, that's it. Yes, that's open paper. Yes, approval. Another is that we're talking about the governance, the procedure on the new units open paper, because some faculty senator, faculty member talked about the situation in which directors were appointed permanently without the open paper. So, and faculty senate was not involved in those new units open paper, the colleges and schools. So, and that's question one. Another is that, okay, and those directors of the school, and they paid 12 months. In fact, the units is smaller
List for you. We'll go from there.
or the same as the previous units. So the budget issue, and we need to talk about too. And another thing about the faculty line, and we obviously, the we lost almost many faculty lines. Maybe we need to have a plan how to recover the loss of the faculty so that we cover the necessary costs for students. Again, this is just sum up, and I will defer to my colleagues here who may have additional question or ask question more specifically. I'm going to stop here. Can you hear us, Chancellor?
Yeah, I can. I didn't know if anyone had some questions there. I know on the first part, we talked about, and Mark is looking into this, but if it was not followed in regards to the appointments or any of the school directors you mentioned, I think that was your first item. It's as simple as just making sure we follow what we're supposed to follow. So I think Mark is going to check into that just to make sure we're doing everything we're supposed to do in accordance with the plan. That hopefully will address that. The 12-month piece, that's another area. Dr. Lee, you and I talked a little bit about that in terms of the months and what it is that they're doing during that time. We're going to check into that as well and see, where in fact we need to land in that regard. And the last piece, as it relates to faculty lines, could you give me a little more information about that?
No, at least I didn't know, or any update?
On faculty lines?
Yeah, faculty hires, faculty lines, yes.
Yeah, nothing has changed there. Whatever lines are there should still be there. I guess I'm looking for a little more help with, is there something that's out of whack, or what's going on with the lines?
Well, actually, my question is a little bit more than status quo. We would like to have a strategic plan for the future to increase faculty line.
Gotcha. Got it. I heard you wrong. Yeah, I'll give you about as clear of a plan that we've been following. Those lines are all contingent upon funding. And that way, I don't want to mislead anyone. The state appropriations really is what fuels the line. And the enrollment, the tuition revenue is another factor that feeds the line. We still have some debt to pay down, so it's not as easy to go out and start to hire and put a lot of people on the payroll. So we've got to be real careful about that. Let me make sure you guys can still hear me. So we've got to be careful about that. So the plan going forward is that we continue to grow in enrollment. If we see tuition revenue there, I think we'll have an opportunity to be able to hire more, whether that's faculty or staff. State appropriations this year, we were lucky in that it will go up about $3.8 million. There was a pretty large percentage of that, though, we're allocating towards raises. About a 2% raise across the board is what we're advocating for. We'll be doing that in our June or July board meeting. So there's a portion of that. 2% for us is about $2 million, just to give you an idea. I think if you were to say, well, at what point would we really start to see, more hires come in the faculty ranks? Those two things I mentioned would have to stay not only steady, but be inching up. That would be state appropriations and tuition revenue. And we would also need to allocate or reallocate that $5.4 million that we're paying in the give back every year. That is probably the pool of money we would start to use to increase faculty lines. That's about 2024, 2025. So we're still out about another two years before we dig ourselves out of the hole when we wiped out the reserve a couple of years ago. We had a $15 million reserve a couple of years back. So that's the plan, is that those three things have to happen. Again, tuition revenue streams have to go up with enrollment. We have to have state appropriations stay flat or increase. And then obviously we'd have to pay off that give back debt. This year, we're using some of that money that the governor approved in fiscal year 2022. We're using that to actually cover the give back that all of the academic areas were going to have to send money back to Julie to take care of the debt. We're not asking those areas to do that because of the money we're able to get in from the state. So that's a good thing. But we still are in this for 2 more years. So I think if all of those things working together, we'll probably see a little relief. Until then, any resignations or retirements will stay in the schools. They will not route up to the provost office. And thanks to Joe and some others, that recommendation came about a year ago, and we've stuck to that. And I want to make sure we're still sticking to that. But the deans, along with faculty in those areas, can decide where those dollars will come from. To really sum up the question, we have a strategic plan, and inside of that strategic plan, you're starting to see the strategic enrollment management plan that Wendell presented. That will come alive. You will see a campus master plan in the next year that will come alive. You will see a capital expenditure plan that will come alive. And then eventually when we hire a provost, you will see an academic plan come alive. Right now, again, we're going to begin that search here shortly. Whoever's identified as provost will have that academic plan. They'll start to come in almost like I did with listen, learn, find out what we need to do. But that will be about 4 or 5 plans inside of our overall strategic plan with Imagine SIU. So that hopefully answers some questions about what we're thinking about going forward and trying to enhance in a couple of areas.
Okay, thank you, Chancellor Nang. We have 2 hands here. The first one is Dr. Carney Maxson, who is the new elected co-chair of governance committee. And the next one is Dr. George Remek, who is the co-chair of UEPC. So Dr. Maxson first.
Yes, Chancellor Lane, thank you first. We have faculty that are retiring and faculty that passed away and faculty that actually leave to go somewhere else. And those actually, the fact that they are not here anymore, they have really huge impacts on those programs. Can we set some rules to say, well, those are really the first, lines that need to be replaced within every program?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that will play in very nicely with a lot of the work that many of you were probably a part of when Gray's associate was here. They're going to help us look and prioritize really exactly what you're saying. So identifying for us, and we can do that ourselves too, what areas did we lose faculty in? And then we start to look at what programs, as we heard from Gray's, what programs do we think will have a significant impact on not only our enrollment, but a number of different things. So that's the idea, is that we take a hard look at what programs took those losses a couple of years ago in retirements or just in a number of different areas, and to find out how much we can put that support back into those areas. That's what that plan would be about, is really looking at from a, just the standpoint of what's the most critical need that we have, and then how do we redistribute those lines to areas that are suffering now in some respects, and prioritize that.
Thank you, Councilman. And the next question from Dr. Joshi Remick.
Yes, hi, Chancellor Lane. And I look forward to seeing you again this weekend at commencement. I think I wanted to ask you, because it's been a while, we had Gray and Associates, the big workshop that several of us did with Gray and Associates. And I don't think we've had yet a chance to fully recap that and figure out where the next steps are. So I wanted to ask you two things. One, how you see Gray and Associates factoring into the academic plan that the new provost will create for the university. And two, one of the takeaways that I had, and of course I was quoted by SIU Today yesterday about this concern I had, prior to Gray and Associates coming, I had no idea as a rank and file faculty member, and then as a director of undergraduate studies, and then as a program coordinator, how decisions are ever made in this university campus when it comes to lines and comes to resources that units give. I'll just tell you a brief story and then I'll shut up. When I came, my department of history was 21 faculty members. We're down to 8.5 now. One of the concerns I had was, because we're not accredited, the only real rescue lines in recent years that have come are programs that need those lines because they won't get reaccredited. And there's a sense of lack of fairness with that, one. And two, when you look at the Gray and Associates data, for my own unit in particular, we were one of the few and across the whole university to be rated double green. And so that then raises a further question to me is, well, how exactly are decisions made at the uppermost levels? Are they actually basing them on any real data? Are they rewarding programs that actually are not the best bang for the buck, while shortchanging programs like mine, which have a lot of potential? Because we're just not the favorite of a particular provost any given moment or whatever, and nobody's advocating for us. So I'm curious really here how you see our decision-making process at this university becoming more robust, more equitable, and more data-driven, most of all, rather than something which I think a lot of us have experienced. I've been here 15 years and it's opaque, mysterious, not accountable, and who knows why decisions are made. Right? So how do you see this? How do you see us going forward from there?
Yeah, that's why I wanted to bring Grace. And I know sometimes I think people thought, well, what's that about? It's because, Joe, everything you mentioned is what I observed when I came here. I couldn't answer any of the questions that you just laid out. I thought, wow, and I'm going to be real blunt. Some of my questions to my direct reports were exactly what you described. I said, how are you making that decision? And I had to lay off the gas a little bit because I had to realize all of the changes that were happening here throughout the last several years. right? And I'm back with budget impasse and interim leadership and you name it. So I had to put the brakes on a little bit to say, well, I can't beat up on our folks here because they didn't have these plans in place, and I think they were just flying by the seat of their pants. And so this is a launching pad for us. It's kind of a foundation that we're building. I think Graves is sort of the beginning of that foundation in terms of how we're going to make these decisions collectively as a group. You, Joe, I know probably more than anyone on this call, if you notice, my plan has been to expose more faculty and other non-administrators to the information so you can see it, so you can ask me these kinds of questions that you're asking now. Before, I don't think that was happening here. Like you said, you didn't know how the budget was designed or how folks were how faculty positions were being added or deleted. So we're trying to change the culture a little bit to start from scratch and get this feedback that you're giving and others are giving. So when we hire in, let's say our new provost, right, then there's some clear direction now about how we hire faculty, what areas that we need faculty in, right? What kind of support is going to be needed for faculty that are in those areas. And so I think we're going to, from scratch, build that foundation. You asked about Grays. At our retreat that's coming up this summer, will be our debrief to really start to put some of that roadmap together so that we can have a clear design pathway in terms of faculty positions, when we're deciding on these positions, how that works, how they're funded, based on data, right, based on growth, and all of those kinds of things. And so we'll be able to put that comprehensive piece together so we all know this is how we do it. It shouldn't be a secret. It shouldn't be anything that people can't share. The last piece is that in this next year, I'm going to be really pushing my deans. I think they play a critical role in making sure that faculty are not only involved in this process, but that they have the communication and that they're being transparent along the way. I found that I don't have a lot of faculty who are getting the messages from their deans. Everything can't come from the provost or the chancellor. So I'm going to be really working with our deans to make sure that, they can articulate the direction in which we're going in areas like you're talking about right now. Again, we've had some interim leadership in certain areas. We're starting to get a little more permanent leadership. I think that's going to help us going forward. But that's really, again, the comprehensive roadmap. If you think of it this way, a new blueprint, starting from scratch, things we've done in the past. I'm going to be honest with you, we're trying to run away from some of those things because they've caused some confusion as it relates to whether it's hiring or how one area gets a position over another. I don't think there was any rhyme or reason to it, just being honest with you. I think it's just a decision that was made and, people went forward and that's what they did. We're going to put a little more structure on that going forward.
Well, it's almost 2:20, and Chancellor Nan, I know Provost Kumrajo is traveling, couldn't be here, and she couldn't be here. You will have about 5 minutes to wrap up, or any updates for us?
Yeah, to leave on a high note, back on budget, I'm very pleased with where we are financially. As you know, the governor with the most recent announcements, it's going to help us in a couple of different areas to be able to give a possible increase to our employees. I said if I had my way every year, we'd do at least a 1% to 2% increase. It looks like we'll be in a position to do that again. We'll be in a really good position to pay down some of the debt, which is going to be helpful. You probably have heard, not only are we being efficient on the academic side, on the athletic side, the revenues are coming in much better than they did a couple of years ago. As you know, we were running a $9 million deficit every year. That day is over because we've just tightened up the belt a lot more in that area. which I think is going to help the overall number. There are a lot of discussions, as Joe mentioned just a moment ago, with how we sort of reconstruct how we do things. And I want to make sure I underline that word reconstruct, because hopefully it signals that we're not just going to do what we've always done. So if people were used to something, it's okay to change it. And as I tell the cabinet, it's okay to get rid of it. If it's not working, let's try something else. And much of what we try is going to be based on input that we receive from you, from groups, from the Senate and from the other constituency groups. And so we are going to listen to things that make sense. And even if things don't make sense, we're still going to listen. So I think that's the culture we're trying to create. We have a new possible new hire that will come in for our vice chancellor for research and dean of the graduate school. I think you're going to be very pleased with this person and their credentials and their ability to move us to new levels, new heights. That's going to be good. We have 2 dean positions that we're trying to wrap up now. Again, we both of those positions, they've had interims in there for quite some time now. So having some permanent leaders in there, I think will really help us going forward as we move forward. And finally, I want to really recognize all of those folks who have been promoted. Well, we've had some associates and some folks who have been granted tenure, and we've been able to list them out there and congratulate them. And then we have some articles out there, but the board just approved those folks that are out there. So a big congratulations to all of them. We're going to do a little better job of highlighting that going forward. I think sometimes we don't do a good enough job in celebrating that accomplishment for those individuals, but we'll do better there. And that's really for us commencements here. So over 1,800 students set to receive their degrees. That's a great number, but it's a number that is bittersweet because Joe is smiling. I see you, Joe. It's bittersweet because you got to replace those students. And, right now we're feeling really good. We're up considerably in our applications and admits, and we've got to yield those students. So we've got to make sure that we keep them here. Right now, our goal was to try and have at least 2,000 students in this class. As you remember last fall, we ended with about 1,400. So we're on pace to yield close to that number, but we've got a lot of work to do. It's early. It's really early. There are a couple of things that will help us. The MAP grants have increased. We think that's going to, right at the last hour, it's going to help us really land more students who were deciding between us and essentially our community colleges. It was about cost, not so much about qualification, just about cost. So we think we'll land more there. So that's going to be an area for us down the stretch that hopefully will get us over the yield percentage that we're trying to get to. So overall, I want to thank everybody this semester, this whole year. We could not have done it without your support and without your guidance. You remember a lot of the decisions that you guys made helped us steer the university, especially in the area of COVID. In the area of mental health and taking care of our students. We started the year with a terrible loss and a death for one of our students. If you can remember, that was feels like that was yesterday, but that was back in August. And unfortunately, we've had to end the year with 2 of our students in a terrible car wreck. And we are working on some things here with their families still as we speak. So it's been a long year, but it's been a productive year. And again, hats off to Faculty Senate and Dr. Lee. Congratulations on your second term. I mentioned that at our board meeting the other day. We're all excited about that and look forward to working with everyone again very, very soon.
Thank you so much, Chancellor Nan, and appreciate your time. I know this weekend is our commencement weekend. Our faculty member, at least, we'll see each other there. It's almost 2:26. Any questions for Chancellor Nan before we wrap up?
Yeah, if I may.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, Joe first, then
Yeah.
Next.
Okay, so really briefly, Chancellor Lane, I think I looked at the enrollment data that Wendell keeps updating for us. Everything does look very promising. Yet there was one aspect of it that still concerned me a little, and probably concerns you too, which is how are we currently doing with our transfer students coming in this fall? Are we out of double digits negative for that? Because I know for a while we were down with applications. And what is our strategy, or what are our new strategies to get ourselves into a positive net territory with that category? Just because for several of our programs, mine included, but there are several others, we rely heavily on those transfer students coming in junior and senior year. So would be, I think that's also important to look at.
Yeah, the transfer numbers, they don't concern us just yet. We're still about 16 weeks out. And what we're finding is that the transfer student population gets hit the most because they're not eligible for some of those incoming scholarships that our freshmen receive. So a lot of what we're going to shift to, Joe, now that we've had the commitment date was May 1st. Obviously today, I just got back, speaking of transfer, from Southeastern Illinois College. I was over there with Jonah Rice, the president. His son, by the way, is graduating as a Saluki on Saturday. But really, the issue there is financial. It's not that they don't want to be here. It's just they're trying to find the funds. So we're going to try and release some of those dollars for students that have committed to us, the uncommitted students. So, for example, our folks are reaching out right now to students that have not committed, and we have awarded them dollars. So if they're uncommitted and going somewhere else, we're going to take those dollars and reallocate them to students that actually want to show up here in the fall. That includes transfer students. So that's kind of our hidden card there, so to speak, to try and salvage more students towards the end, or yield more students, is to really
dedicated scholarships for those transfers. Is there a way to get more scholarships?
There is. So we have some foundational dollars. If you remember, we left about 11 million on the table a year ago. Not anymore. We're not doing that anymore. So that's going to be allocated to not only new students, but transfer students. Also, inside of our academic areas, we've really worked with our deans. We left several millions of dollars inside of our academic areas that could have been allocated on the front end. Instead, some were using it to help students that were already here. We're going to use some of that to attract students. And so that philosophy will change up a little bit going forward. But we think it's going to yield a better percentage, not only for new students, but transfer students, because those dollars are actually there to award.
Okay, thank you very much, Chancellor Nan. It's almost time. I know Dr. Farhan had a question. He's going to ask you the question next time because of time. And I would like to have a motion to join the meeting. Anyone to move it? Okay, Dr. Farhan moved. So Dr. Mike second. So we'll join the meeting. Thank you so much. Have a good final exam. See you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, see you Saturday at commencement.
We'll see you Saturday.
Yes, see you
Looking
guys.
forward to it. Please
Good luck.
bring others. Bring others. Everybody loves the faculty.
Well,
All right.
On that
You guys
point,
are much
actually,
more important. You're much more important than me.
thank you. On that point, I know we've adjourned already, but I think we can encourage more faculty to go every year.
Yes.
I think
Because there aren't a lot of faculty that go year after year, and it's starting to actually annoy me, because I go all the time, and I think it's for the students that day.
Yeah. Well, thank you so
whatever
much.
we can do.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. We'll see you Saturday.
Sure. See you guys.
Right.
Okay.
Good luck with the rest of the week, everybody.
Bye.
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 See you, Joe, tomorrow.
Tomorrow morning, yes, look forward to it.
Yeah, okay.